I've worked on the bay ever since I was 14 years old, and it's part of life to me. And I would hate to see it where watermen couldn't make a living, or if we couldn't get the seafood that people need to eat. I mean, it's all works together, and this is all I've done all my life. So when that's gone, everything's gone with it. When I started patting tong in the wintertime, and I guess it was 72, I used to sell over to McNasby's. John Turner owned it then. So we used to sell a lot of our seafood to John Turner. We'd go over right to the dock pier, and they had an elevator and everything where they hoisted oysters off and dumped them on the elevators that carried them right inside the building. And we'd go in there every day that we could get out, good weather. Well, then when in 71, 72, we was catching 75, 100 bushel a day. A good day, good weather. But that was with hydraulic tongs. Average of $3 to $5. Most of the time it's $3 or $4 a bushel. Yeah. The only time they went up a little bit higher is if the bay froze up and the oysters got scarce. Then you only catch 10 or 12 bushel a day, and we was getting like $8 and $10 a bushel for it. It's a good thing for if you wanted to be a commercial waterman, but you should have other occupations too. You should be able to do other things. And I think a lot of the young people today that's going on the water to work, they should have go to trade schools or something and learn other occupations, because sometimes you can't make it on the water. So it's not there. Like if the bay freezes up, or if you have to go to work somewhere, you have a skill enough to do it. Yeah, but it's harder, and you got to put more hours in. It's harder work because you don't catch as much fish or crabs, but in most cases you're getting more for them. So I think that most watermen should have other occupations, and that's what I used to do. I used to fish, and when I couldn't get out and fish in the wintertime, and then later years I oystered. I had pat and tong rig, but the same thing happens with that. You get frozen in. In the 50s, they was just starting to use crab pots. I think they started using crab pots in the late 40s, 48, 49. But didn't nobody have too many of them, because you had to make them yourself. You didn't have no place to buy them already made. So we'd buy rolls of wire and make them myself. Taking an old trap and take it apart and use it for pattern. First one came from Virginia, and Clarence Whitaker, he brought one up from Virginia to my father, and we found he caught crabs so good that we took it apart and used it for a pattern. There was a lot of difference in the cost of operation then. I think gasoline then was what, 50-some cents a gallon, or less than $1, and you only burnt maybe 5 gallons a day. Yeah, I remember when the first car I had, and the first boat my father bought me, gasoline was 10 cents a gallon. That's hard to believe too, isn't it?
It is.
I had an old Model A Ford that had a 5-gallon tank on it. It run all week on 5 gallons. 10 cents a gallon. gas wasn't no options. It cost more for an ice cream cone than it did for a gallon of gas. Well, a new trap, when you buy it, you got to put the zinc on it, and that used to be $1 a piece for the zinc. And that's a zinc alloy that you put on the trap to keep the electrolysis from eating it up. And so now the price of zinc just went up another $1, so they're $1.85 now. And you have to have one of them on each trap to start with, and you have a rope that you got to buy. Like we buy the rope by 1,000-foot spools, and that usually costs about $45–50 a spool. And so the time you buy the buoy is about $2 a piece. And so when you add it all together, right now a crab pot costs about $15 to put it overboard. And then after you put it overboard for a short time, it starts to get dirty. You got to pull it up, wash it, pressure wash it, and paint it with paint that we use, regular pot paint, that's anti-fouling. And so that keeps you from having to bring it to shore too often after that. But then when it gets dirty, you got to bring it back in and wash it again and take it back out. Well, a painted pot, you got to do it about every 2 or 3 weeks. If it's not painted, you have to do it every week. So that's the difference in painting and not painting. It gives you more time, catching time, than sitting on the shore. It pays you to paint them because the pot stays clean and it catch better. I saw a boathouse built for Ben Saul over Spar Creek, Annapolis, and Smith Brothers did the work there, and I found out what they charged him, and I figured that's where the money was at. And so I got a job putting, my brother-in-law and I put the roof and the sides on that shed for Ben Saul. And Smith Brothers, all they did was put all the heavy sills and timbers in and the piling. And so I knew what they paid for that, and I figured that was a good job to get into. We were charging $25 a pole for driving it, and most of the time the poles, if you bought new poles, they were $1 a foot. There's a lot of difference now. And usually bulkheads, a 4-foot bulkhead, would cost $12–15 a foot, a linear foot. And then in the 70s, you start seeing more pile driving rigs. Everybody was getting into the pile driving business. I had a drop hammer rig. The hammer weighed 2,200 pounds, and I had 32-foot shivs that the hammer slid up and down in. And I had a big winch that I bought for pulling that hammer up and down. I bought it from a place up in Brooklyn, South Brooklyn, that came off a coal dock in Baltimore where they used to drag coal. And so we would just run around, and we bought everything used and second-handed and auctions and everything else, and built our own rig. There wasn't too much money around. Summertime, we had more money than usual. In wintertime was always bad because the weather was always bad. You had a lot of bad weather in the wintertime. And but we did very good in the summertime. because you had a lot of stuff around the river and bay. On the point down there, my grandfather and grandmother and I had an uncle lived down there, Louis Cantler. We was always begging and borrowing stuff back and forth, trading stuff. But we used to go up, carry bunches of fish up the road to sell for my father. We have a whole string of fish. It was only a quarter for the whole string of fish, probably about 5 pounds of fish, and for a quarter. And they would say, "You tell your father I'll see him Saturday and pay him. I'll tell him I owe him a quarter." And that's the way we did then. And they'd come down Saturday and buy some more fish and pay the quarter. Projects like this here, it's very important to get the message out to different people that doesn't understand. So it looks like everything's just going to go away, and if something's not done to preserve it.
Now, a long time ago, there was a schoolboy who lived in a cottage by the sea, and the very first thing he could remember was the rigging of the schooners by the quay. He would watch them from his bedroom window, saw the big cranes hauling out the freight, and he used to dream of shipping as a sea cook and sailing for the Golden Gate.